Hi guys! Today I'm going to be doing my presentation on suspicionless drug testing on welfare applicants. It is unnecessary, unwise, and unconstitutional. Over 59 Americans in all 50 states are food stamp and welfare recipients. Many believe that these recipients are more likely to involve in drug use and they should be tested for drug use in order to receive government assistance, while others believe that it is pointless. This year alone, at least 29 states consider drug testing for people who receive welfare and food stamps. I myself am not a public assistance recipient, or neither am I a supporter of suspicionless drug testing for those who are. As you can see in the statistic, 12 million Americans are on welfare, while 46 million are recipients of food stamps. There's been no credible research to support the misconstrued perception that poor people are more likely to use drugs any more than other group of people. A tremendous amount of money will be required to run these programs, and in one way or another, we, the people, will be the ones paying for it. Forcing someone to get a drug test in order to receive money for food and medicine is unconstitutional. Can you cut? The society has a misperception of poor and underprivileged people. There's been very little evidence that programs that drug test applicants and recipients are beneficial or necessary. In places where drug testing have been implemented, very few people have tested positive. One of those states is Florida. This is Governor Rick Scott, who quoted on a TV interview with CNN that welfare users use drugs at a higher rate than the general population. Now this graph right here shows the total applicants, which is 4,086 people were tested. Only a mere 108 individuals tested positive. That's only 2.6%. The federal government has estimated that 8.13% of all Florida ages 12 and up are illegal substance users. So how do we account for the 5.5%? People receiving welfare and food stamps are just like you and I. Many have young children and they need to survive in this harsh society. Many of them have goals and dreams that they would like to pursue. And the lesson is we shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Now this is another graph that will show you the money that Florida actually spent on the program. Florida spent $118,000 to reimburse people, because what they did was the drug test cost $42 for each person. The applicant have to actually pay for it themselves, and unless they test it negative, they won't get reimbursed unless they test it negative. The money that the program have saved only equal to $45,000. So as you can see in the graph, it's not even half of what the state spent, which resulted in a big failure. Florida actually retracted this law and is no longer implemented. According to Oklahoma Human Services Department, officials screened nearly 1,900 people and conducted 537 drug tests, but only denied 83 people. Now in this time, Oklahoma spent $80,000 on the program, and this is only within 4 months. But officials denied, however, how much money they spent on the program. Now, if you look back at this picture right here, 98% passed the drug test that costed $178 million. Now, this is a projected number of what would happen if Florida implemented this law for 1 year. The winner of this whole program would be the drug testing companies, because they would benefit most. The losers would be the taxpayers of Florida. Total saving would be negative $178 million. That's the money that Florida would lose in 1 year. Now, one of the interesting facts is that Governor Rick Scott, his wife, owns one of the biggest drug testing company in Florida, which also explained why he wanted this program to be implemented so much. in Kansas recently passed this unwise law into effect and projected to spend approximately $1 million in its first year in order to implement and sustain the program. Noted that this project cost is after the savings that the state estimated. Now, if the goal was to save money, the law has failed horribly. In addition, each state will also need to set aside money to hire more employees to perform the test, to do the screening, hire laboratories to run the tests, and to give back the results. Now, where do you think the government is planning on getting this additional money from?
Taxpayers.
You would be right. Now, why not take this money and energy and create more jobs so people are able to stand on their own 2 feet instead of depending on welfare? Now, suspicionless drug screening is unconstitutional. It violates the 4th Amendment of our human rights. Majority of the U.S. employers do not even require mandatory drug tests in order to hire someone. So why would one have to go through this process in order to receive money for food to sustain their health and survival of their families and themselves? If we let this violation of our fellow Americans' constitution rights go on, what other types of violation will follow? Should we get drug tests for students receiving financial aid? Should we drug test handicapped people who need assistance? Or should we drug test also for people who register to vote, to get married, or to even enter school? Perhaps the government should set an example and pass a law to drug test all politicians and government workers as well. To summarize, making drug screening mandatory for welfare and food stamp recipients for applicants is unwise, unnecessary, and unconstitutional. It will create more financial burden on the government rather than solving the existing problem in the economy. While I admire the attempt to save the state money and reduce drug use in America, I do believe that this is the government's way of showing that they're tough on drugs. The government would get a higher prosecution rate from people who test positive on drugs, but we don't get anything. We would lose money. Violation of our rights, demolition of humanity, and a scar on a society that remind us once again how the U.S. government never failed to disappoint us. Thank you. Do you have any questions? No? Thank you.
I don't think I was recording.
Are you serious?